The iconic Man of Steel is back. After the success of the recent Superman and Lois TV show, we're now getting a Superman movie in May 2025. The three most notable modern iterations of the character are Zack Snyder's film Man of Steel, 2013, the CW's TV series Superman and Lois, from 2021, which just ended, and the graphic novel series Superman, Earth 1, 2010 to 2015, written by J. Michael Straczynski, JMS. That last one, Superman, Earth 1, is part of a trilogy series written by the creator of the sci-fi series, Babylon 5. Each version has a distinct interpretation of Superman's mythology. This is not an easy thing to do because Superman has been around for decades, so reimagining him in a way that will appeal to fans is not easy. The graphic novel series is my favorite of all three, and I'll tell you why. Man of Steel. Zack Snyder's Man of Steel is a story about identity. It's Soup's origin story, which dives into answering the question of what it means to be an alien raised as a human being. Clark Kent Kal-El has to grapple with his dual heritage. Although the movie is pretty dark compared to past Superman movies, it's still ultimately a movie about hope, sacrifice, and love. Clark must decide whether to align himself with humanity or his Kryptonian origins. Was Supergirl supposed to make an appearance? If so, that's a shame that she wasn't in the movie. Anyway, the destruction of Krypton symbolizes as the loss of a past that Clark never knew. Side note, I always hated this part of his origin. Seems stupid that an entire planet just blows up, but the filmmakers have to follow the lore of Superman's past origins. Superman is seen as a messianic figure, one who is burdened with the weight of both his powers and the expectations of both worlds. It's interesting to note that Superman, through the movie, never really gets involved in major world conflicts. This is something that we see in the Earth 1 trilogy. More on that later. In fact, I would say the best part of the Man of Steel movie are the production values and the action sequences. The acting was pretty decent, the action sequences were awesome, and the production values were great. Cavill really looked the part as Superman, but he was stiff as Clark Kent. Zod overacted, while the woman who played his second-in-command Kryptonian played a much better role, and in some ways, she was more ruthless than Zod himself. With all that said, we're going to get a new iteration of Superman coming out this year, one featuring a new suit, looks comical and not in a good way, the super dog Krypto lame, and a horrible looking Mr. Terrific. I know it sounds like I'm bashing the new movie before it even comes out, but the visuals don't help. But let's see how Tim Gunn does with Superman and the upcoming Supergirl movie after that. Who knows, it may surprise everyone and be as good as the Cavill version. Probably not, but let's see. Superman and Lois. The family show on the CW did something that no other live-action iteration of Superman has ever done, shown Superman with his wife and two twin sons. The show is filled with themes about family and legacy. Clark Kent is not only a superhero to the world, but a husband to Lois Lane and a father to two teenage sons. He balances his responsibilities as Clark Kent, father and reporter, while secretly keeping his superhero identity from his two fathers and saving the world. Superman and Lois emphasizes generational struggle and how John and Jordan deal with learning about their father as Superman, manage their teenage lives in Smallville, and how they deal with their powers manifesting. Would have been nice for Jordan to get his powers a lot sooner than season 4. The show is about the importance of human connections. It's grounded, dealing with relatable issues like parenting challenges, financial struggles, and mental health, all wrapped up in a superhero story. It's also a shame we never got to see Supergirl in this show. I also find that the Superman and Lois show is a much better Clark Kent than he is as Superman, while Henry Cavill in the Man of Steel movie is a much better Superman than he is as a stiff Clark Kent. Earth 1 JMS's Earth 1 graphic novel reimagines Superman as an alienated and introspective young adult. It's supposed to be an Elseworld story. It's written by the creator of the sci-fi show Babylon 5. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. The trilogy centers around Clark's self-discovery. Kent grapples with what to do with his abilities in a world that often feels unkind and unwelcoming. It's a dark trilogy, but 100% better than the Man of Steel movie, which came about around the same time. It's also funnier than the Man of Steel movie. Unlike other iterations, Earth 1 portrays Kal-El as an outsider, not just because of his Kryptonian heritage, but because of his struggles to find his place in an indifferent society. The narrative is darker, with a focus on Clark's feeling of isolation from humanity. He appears younger than the Clark in the Man of Steel movie as well. Throughout the trilogy, we see Superman getting involved in Earth's conflicts, including wars in Africa. He tries to depose a warlord, but finds that strength alone won't work. This catches the attention of the militaries of the world, who are naturally wary of him. Of course, strategies to possibly take down the Man of Steel are discussed among the military, particularly the US military. That is where Lex Luthor in the graphic novel comes through. Lois Lane. Man of Steel, Lois, played by Amy Adams, is a driven journalist who quickly discovers Clark's secret. I personally found Adams blander compared to the Terry Hatcher and Erica Durant's iterations. She is more of a plot device, one that is supposed to serve as a narrative device to move Superman's story forward, rather than having her own character development arc. And Lois. Elizabeth Tulloch's Lois is a co-lead, with her investigative skills and career as a journalist taking center stage. Lois is already a seasoned reporter, one who is much like the classic Lois. Intelligent, driven, and compassionate. She balances her own ambitions with supporting her family. Both Clark and Lois struggle with their careers, superhero ambitions, and managing their family responsibilities. Earth 1. Lois has a smaller role in the first volume of Earth 1, as the story primarily focuses on the younger version of Clark. She retains her sharp tenacity, setting the stage for future interactions. She reminds me more of the classic Lois, a seasoned Lois, one who defies Perry White at the drop of a hat, with an equally driven, fiery, red-headed Jimmy Olsen at her side. Jimmy, interestingly, isn't the nerdy type in this version. He puts himself in danger to get that perfect shot and is just as driven as Lois is to get the story. Villains. Man of Steel, General Zod, Michael Shannon, is classic antagonist whose motivations are rooted in a twisted sense of duty to his people, the Kryptonians who perished. He's hanging on to his past, is desperately trying to bring Krypton back by terraforming Earth. His ideological underpinnings obviously conflict with Superman. This is the crux of the story. Superman and Lois. Multiple antagonists are featured in this show, including Morgan Edge, Tal-Rho, Superman's half-brother, Bizarro, Lex Luthor, and Steel, who is really a good guy. Bizarro Superman is a nice departure from the big, dumb Hulk he's typically portrayed as. If the show had continued a few more seasons, we would have seen both Brainiac and Darkseid. The villains on the show are often close to Superman in some way, reflecting the importance of relationship dynamics. Earth 1. The graphic novel introduces a new villain, Tyrell, a member of an alien race that helped destroy Krypton. Tyrell's presence highlights a fresh new take on Zod, the general who led Krypton's military before its destruction. Blinded by rage, he ended up betraying Krypton. Zod, in this iteration, starts off as a friend to Clark, telling him about his heritage, and interestingly enough, if you see how he's portrayed in the comic, his face is often shrouded by blackness. There is also Parasite, the villain who is able to absorb powers. He has a personal connection with Clark as well. There's also a fresh new take on Lex Luthor, with Luthor getting an origin story in this iteration. I won't spoil too much. Again, go read it. Vision of Superman. Man of Steel, a grand mythic vision of Superman as a Jesus-type figure. Snyder's Superman is less about the day-to-day heroics and more about the philosophical implications of his existence. He's essentially a god among humans. Superman and Lois, a grounded portrayal that focuses on the human side of Superman. It emphasizes his humility and the daily challenges of being a husband, father, and a global icon. Earth 1, a reimagined origin that feels intimate and introspective, one where JMS puts Clark on a journey of a young man on his discovery to find himself, and the story makes him relatable to the audience. Each of these iterations brings something unique to Boy in Blue. Man of Steel offers a cinematic exploration of Superman's mythology. Superman and Lois provides a heartfelt and relatable take on Clark Kent, where he helps his sons through their own journeys, learning about their own Kryptonian heritage, and discovering their powers as well. Family drama abounds. The only thing that I personally didn't like was the overt focus on Lana Lang's family and her family drama. It felt like filler. I really only care about the main Kent family. Earth 1 delivers a fresh, modern perspective on Superman's origin, offering a new take on Zod and Krypton's battle with aliens. Whether he's a reluctant savior, a dedicated father, or a young guy on his journey, Superman's enduring appeal lies in his ability to inspire hope and reflect the best of humanity in any era.